want to talk about our continual study on just practical living, a decision to let God be in charge of our lives. A decision to let God be in charge of our lives. Touch your neighbor on the shoulder and repeat these words after me. Neighbor.
Neighbor.
The preacher's going to talk about.
The preacher's going to talk about.
I'm under new management.
New management.
Amen.
Amen.
I'm under new management. The operative word there in this subject is decision. I want you to, if you're making notes, circle that particular word. It's decision, Kevin. It means literally to come to a resolve conclusion. I want you to write that down. The word decision, Robert, means to come to a resolved conclusion.
Yes.
I'm going to say it real slow again because I want it really to resonate with you. It literally means to come to a resolved conclusion. It speaks to the person or the individual pondering whatever is going on in their lives. I don't have time to talk about each given circumstances that each of us perhaps in our lives, and you think about this because I'm sure that every adult that's here has had to at one given point in your life, have had to come to a resolve conclusion. In other words, you and I have exhausted, pondered, contemplated, meditated on whatever may be going on with you or with me at that given time. And because of time restraint, you have to move yourself sometimes in a voluntary way, and then sometimes reluctantly to a resolve. Y'all see it with me? A what? A resolve conclusion. That's what decision means. Now, if you see on the PowerPoint, you will see the given subjects that both Stacey and I have been talking about. Recognizing our brokenness, the birth of faith in us. Last week, I know he spoke on self-examination. And it is given in sequence to help us to move to where we are at this critical junction of our lives, and that is making a resolved decision about the subject matter, allowing God to be in charge. Let me just a little bit, just a tidbit talk about how challenging that is. If you think, Lynn, for 1 second that that's easy, you better think again. I'm not talking about a spontaneous decision just because a song is sung or even a sermon is preached or because you got all inspired over something. When you talk about making a decision to let God to be the head of your life and the Lord of your life, you better think more than twice about that. Because I'm sure that each of us in here who are children of God, we can all attest to the fact that we made that decision, but that decision was a little bit more difficult than we thought about. Because it's one thing to be convinced that I need to turn to God. It's another thing to be convicted that I need to turn to God. But it is a whole different matter when you start talking about I'm going to convert my life over to the Lord and I'm not coming back. It seems as if all of the devil's imps and his angels seems to come against you when he is convinced what? That you're serious. So I want you to think about this. Why should I? And it's a relevant question. It's a relevant question every person should ask themselves. Because let me tell you something. Do you realize that you can live in this world and enjoy it without God? And that may be difficult for us as Christians. But you can literally live in this world and enjoy your life without God. You can live in this life and be successful without God. You can live in this life, be successful, have happiness, and have great things happen to you, and be an atheist and not even believe in God and still be successful. So we got to be very careful when we're talking to people and individuals about God, that God can do this and God can do that, when oftentimes if you talk to individuals who are successful, who have a lot of things going on with them and they are doing great, they can tell you, I'm already fine. That's to them. Because when you make a decision to move your life in a direction by which God is going to be in charge of your life, now you're talking about surrendering everything of who you are and what you have under the hands of God.
Amen. Amen.
And the whole game changes.
That's right.
Because now you are positioning yourself now to trust not in your things, not in your materials, not in your degree,
That's right.
not in your money, not in your bank account, but you are desiring now to trust God. Because oftentimes when you lean toward not your understanding and start leaning toward God, oftentimes you will discover that those very things that you have cannot make you happy when troubles comes in your life. And that is where God makes the difference. So why should I allow God? But first of all, it's just wise. It's just wise to do so. Those of us that's been living long enough, who have experienced the ins and outs of life, those of us that's been living long enough that have had heartaches and pains and suffering, those of us that have experienced the highs and lows in life, what is the one essential thing that life has taught you that is a wonderful thing to have God on your side?
Yes, it is.
I don't care how successful you have become or how much money you got in your bank. In the end, those things are no substitute for having God in your life and having what is called a right relationship with Him. It just seems as if that though you may be broken, you still have God. You still feel better than a millionaire. Because God can give you that inner peace within yourself that is literally oftentimes unexplainable. I can't describe to you what it means to have God at 45,000 feet in the air when you're flying and you haven't even met the pilot or the co-pilot. It just gives you peace to know that, yes, He's flying the plane, but God is the God of the air. When you can rest tonight and you don't have to have a 45 under your pillow. Then you got angels around your house.
Amen.
watching over you. It is just something about knowing God that makes the difference when you decide to make him the Lord of your life and in charge of your life. It is just simply wise. Young people, you may not understand that. If you're still a teenager, you may not understand it, but let me tell you something. Eventually, you will.
Just keep living.
The second thing, it just makes sense. Just think about it. Raise your hand if you had some trouble this week. It makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense in a lot of ways because all of us have feet of clay. And all of us can make mistakes. There is not, Amari, there's not one perfect person inside this building right now. Listen to what Jeremiah says in Jeremiah 10:23. He said, Lord, I figured out, I know for a fact that people's lives are not their own. They cannot direct their own footsteps. How many of you all need help right now?
Amen.
In asking God to help you to make whatever decision you need to make in your life right now that is awesomely important.
Yeah.
God can order your footsteps.
Yeah. Every day.
He can direct you. God can open doors that you could never ever open.
Believe it.
And he can close doors without your permission, and you go around that door and thank him later on for it.
Believe it.
And this is what Jeremiah is trying to convey to the Israelites. It's not in you to direct your own footsteps. You cannot do it. Look at your neighbor and say, you need help.
Need help.
Every last one of us need help.
Everybody needs
No
help.
matter how much academia you may have, no matter how much wisdom you may have, no matter how much Google you may do, all of us need help. And there's a reason. That's what you see on this next PowerPoint. The reason why we need God in charge of our lives is because God is trying to save us.
Yes, he is.
That's what he's really trying to do. He's trying to save us. We are God's highest creation. And God is concerned about you, Victoria. He's concerned about you. When nobody else is concerned about you, God is concerned about his children. That's why Peter says, casting all of what our cares where upon him. Why? Because he's caring. He cared for you.
Amen.
But there are three reasons why I want you to see why God is trying to save us. Number one, he's trying to save us from the devil. Lucifer is a liar, he's a thief, and he's a murderer. Number one, he's a thief. For every joy that you have as a child of God, that God favors your life and that God gives to you because you are his child, Lucifer and his angels are standing around trying to attempt to plot to rob you of that joy.
That's right.
And that blessing. Yes, he is. No matter what their blessing is, whether it's a blessing that is material or a blessing that's spiritual, Lucifer cannot stand that you as a fallen being has taken the place of him in his relationship with God, because he could never ever get that back. He's lost that. But you as a child of God, you as God's child, he cannot stand you. And so he wants to rob you of all the things that God has for you in your life as a child of God. He's a thief. He's a liar. And he's a murderer. He will literally try to destroy your life and cause you to move into a position that he is in, and that is eternal damnation. And so you need to understand, God, number one, is trying to save you, and he's trying to save me from the devil. Number two, God is trying to save us from the world.
See it? You see it?
John says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. All that is in the world is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. But I love how Jesus places this thought in context when he talks about this, when it says, if you gain the world, you'll lose your soul. Because all that's in the